With the new variant dungeon, Aloalo Island, we got for the first time to head to the Southern Sea Islands where the Lalafell originated from. So let's explore the history of this island and the discoveries we made there. Please keep in mind this will spoil the lore coming through the Aloalo variant dungeon, so let's get into it. First of all, we must understand that the Southern Sea Islands are several islands. Even as the first time we go to Aloaloa, a map is shown to us, and there are more than one island on the map, but so far Aloalo is the only one we have gotten to visit, and at the moment we can't confirm if the culture there matches the culture on the other islands. It is likely that they are quite similar, but there is a chance that different nations or tribes had their own culture on these islands. A second thing to note is that all of the lore we learn from this island is through Kalika, a speaking bird born on Aloalo at the shrine of the speaker, making him knowledgeable about the island, but also being only a singular creature, and we are unable to find any writing or other members on the island. We are left with a limited but hopefully reasonably accurate narrative. So let's talk about Aloalo. This island is simply a small island amidst volatile seas and volcanic activity. It has a history of being settled by different groups, only for them to abruptly abandon the island, only for the cycle to start anew when the next group makes their home there. As of now, the latest settled were the Plainsfolk, but they were not the first ones there. We know of one earlier group, which is known as the Forgotten People, though there is a chance there were some before them even. The name was given to the Forgotten People simply because we don't know who they were. We know they built the shrine and the statue of the speaker, so we can assume they were Lalafells, as that is what the race depicted in the statue is. The Forgotten People settled in Aloalo during the waning years of the 4th Astral Era, and they lived there until the 5th Umbral Calamity. And while we don't have many records about that event, we know it was a calamity of ice. It began with a time period known as the Age of Endless Frost, and during that time the world was almost frozen over. Both rivers and even the northern seas, and well down into the southern ones, turned into massive sheets of ice. And while this was a time of great hardship, it was also the time of great migration, with various species being able to walk from one shore to the next. The most notable being actually the Mikotei, as this is the time their race came to Eorzea. The Forgotten People left Aloalo during this time, most likely as life became more difficult, if not even impossible on the island. We don't know where they went, but we know the island remained uninhabited until the 5th Astral Era. This was the time the ancestors of our modern Lalafell arrived. You see, these ancestors of our modern Lalafell lived in the Southern Isles and had become skilled in navigating the open seas, traveling from island to island, and even some of them migrated to Eorzea, where they would take part in forming the magical cities of Nim and Mak. In fact, after the War of the Magi, many of the residents of Nim would return to the islands, including Aloalo, while the residents of Mak would remain. And that is actually where we see the split in our two groups of Lalafell. The Plainsfolk were the ones that returned to the islands, while the Dunesfolk were the ones that remained in Thanalan. I have covered a lot of the Dunesfolk history in my story of Ul'dah and our first variant dungeon, so you can check them out in the iCard. But it's time we take a bit closer look at the lives of the Plainsfolk. Life on the island seems to have had three main components: Arcanema, faith, and the sea. Life seems to have mostly been peaceful, but held enough danger that people of the island did create various protections. Though different from modern Arcanema, where gemstones are used to act as intermediary between the corporeal and incorporeal when summoning familiars, for example, the people of Aloalo had ways of using wood instead, by carving various runes into it. Throughout the island, beautiful handcrafted figures can be found, representing the various animals. Kalika warns us not to mess with these, as for now they are sleeping, but they can be awakened from their slumber if they feel threatened either to themselves or the island. We can actually see them take part in a fight if we perform certain actions on the island. These were not limited to stationary figures. The people of Aloalo also made beings like the kukua, a feline-like wooden being who served both as a companion and a protector of the creator. Another notable figure is the lala, which is a golem-like figure. It was a part of this large archive of mathematical records, grimoires, and other marvels of arcanima. We don't know if the lala was a caretaker, servant, guardian, or maybe a bit of all of it. But when the people of the island were forced to flee over a century ago, they were forced to leave much of their archive behind. And while the valuable tomes have long since been reclaimed by nature, the lala still remains, and really packs a punch. Now, working with the medium of trees, the people of the island managed to infuse their magic into them through various runes. Though there is one thing they did not make. You see, before them the forgotten people built the speaker and brought the jewel he holds. And when the Lalafell came to the island, they spent night and day studying it, trying to understand how it worked, as the jewel seems to imbue itself and the island with power and life. During the research, the Lalafell learned how to extract this ether from slain animals and redirect the flow to nearby trees by carving a variety of geometrics into the tree bark, allowing them to even change the growth state of trees when the ether was channeled correctly. And when the Arcanist of Nim returned after the 6th Umbral Calamity, they brought with them the knowledge of summoning fairies. And one of these fairies in fact still remains on the island. Now this is Status. They are a rather mischievous fairy who has been here for at least over a century. And it's very unusual because we know when an Arcanist summons something in, be it a fairy or a carbuncle, the summon will disappear when the Arcanist dies, and the two cannot be really separated that much. But the unique ether of the island seems to be keeping this fairy summoned and alive. It shows that the island has for a long time had a history of strong arcanima. Its magic is woven into the trees, the ground, the creatures, both natural and crafted. And this arcanima was there long before the Lalafells arrived. Now, along with this arcanima, the people of the island also seem to have worshipped three beings. At least so we learned through the ritual we performed at the island, giving us access to the speaker's shrine. The three beings in question are the whale, a turtle, and a bird. Now, the whale is Ketuduke, and the people of the island believed it was the messenger of the gods. This divine messenger is someone we in fact get to find on the island. Now, it's unlikely that the Lalafells were worshipping the 12 at this point, so it's hard to say which gods they were actually worshipping, but that is something I would love to learn further about. Now, the second being is a sparrow, which is the same type of bird Kalika is, and this bird was apparently revered by the people of the island, though Kalika is the only one who can actually speak. He was born in the shrine, and it's likely that the ether and effects from the jewel there actually gave him the capability to speak. And while the sparrows were revered by the people of the island, well, Kalika was seen as even more special. And yet, for some reason, Kalika seems to have remained on the island after everybody fled. Not to mention that he also seems to have one hell of a lifespan for a bird. And finally, it's the turtle. The sea turtle is the watcher of land and sea, and the people of the island seems to have sought his blessing as they went fishing or traveling across the waves. Through Kalika, we do learn one of the rituals of the Aloalo people, but it seems there were many more, and faith played an integral part in their life. As did the ocean and fish. We know fishing was a major part of their culture simply because they named a lot of fish, and much of the lore we learn about the island is fish related. There are several fishes around the island given a special name, and were for one reason or another revered by the people. The most dangerous one is the Draco barracuda, a species of fish that absorbs and accumulates toxins from its prey, making it a pretty poor meal, but valuable when it comes to alchemy. The people of Aloalo did not eat the fish, instead they looked at it favorably as sort of a protector of the island, as it would keep both harmful seaweed and poisonous smaller fish in check. keeping balance in the sea so the residents of the island could more safely fish for their meals. And in a rare case one might accidentally fish up a Draco barracuda, the islander would promptly return it to the sea as a gesture of gratitude. But there were also fishes they liked to eat. For example, the Aloalo, a fish with hard scales that could be dried and polished and used in calculator devices, which was quite important for all of their arcanima. And the meat of the fish was both tasty and was believed to enhance intelligence. Though based on modern studies of the fish, it does not seem to hold any intelligence-giving properties, but at least it's quite tasty. Another notable and more creepy fish from the island is the Aloalo. It has a face resembling of a man. Now, Kalika did not confirm if the fish was eaten or not, but we do learn the story of it. Apparently, the myth is that an unlucky Lalafell was cast into the ocean during a storm and was transformed into a fish. This tale was commonly told to children as sort of a warning to avoid the shoreline during rough weather. But personally, I just want to know if they ever cooked and ate the fish. And if they did, would it count as like a weird version of cannibalism? But the most valuable of the fishes can be caught in the waters of the shrine, which holds the speaker and his gem. This fish is named the golden Koalakan and is a large golden fish. We are told that long ago a fever raised amongst the Aloalo infants. In desperate bid to save their young, the islander made soup with fish from the waters of the great shrine. The infants' fever broke, and all who partook of the soup grew into hale and hearty adults that were never again touched by sickness. Thenceforth, it became a custom to feed all newborn soup made from the golden Koalakan. Based on the fish's proximity to the shrine of the speaker and the jewel, any benefit of the meat it possessed was probably enhanced by its location, making it one of the most important parts of the culture of the island, and the part of every resident's life. And that's how the people lived for a long time, studying their arcanima, living on fish and whatever they could grow on the island, and life seems to have been quite peaceful. Of course, not everybody stayed on the island, with the Lalafells being notorious for wanting to travel, especially to trade. Many of them traveled to Vilbrand, bringing their knowledge of arcanima with them, leading to the foundation of the modern Arcanist Guild, and the rather large population of plainsfolk in Eorzea. Those who remained on Aloalo were eventually forced to abandon their home as well. The reason they had to leave was a massive underwater volcanic eruption. And just like during the Age of Frost, the people of the island could not stay there any longer. Thick ice blocked out the sun, and harsh waves hit the island. It was no longer a safe place to live, so they left the island, sailing out to find a new home. We don't know exactly where they ended up. It is likely that some of them did end up in Eorzea, and others may have found home on some of the other islands. Maybe if we end up traveling to the southern islands, we might meet them and learn even more about their history. But just like that, Aloalo became abandoned once more. But we know this island works in cycles of people settling it, only to be forced to leave some time later because of natural disaster. And one day, it might become inhabited again. It's honestly only a matter of time till the cycle restarts again. Now, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was interesting. I really enjoyed Aloalo Island. I feel like the developers are getting better and better at making these variant dungeons. But now tell me, what do you think about the variant dungeons and Aloalo? Does anybody know if we can get the outfit this Lalafell is wearing on the picture? Because I would love to have that. And if it's not in the game, do you think we might be going to the Southern Seas? Because this is not the glam we got for doing the variant dungeon. Let's talk about all of this in the comments. And while you're down there, do all the good YouTube stuff. And of course, whatever you do, I hope you have a lovely day.